Hi everybody, Indiana Magnum. Just back working on that Martini Henry rifle again. This is part 4 tonight. As you can see, we've taken it all apart as far as we're going to. We've got the action all stripped, and the next stage is to clean it. So, I'm not going to clean the barrel tonight, so we'll get rid of that part. It'll just get in the way. So we'll chuck that over there out of the way. All we're going to work on tonight is the little tiny parts. If I can move the camera a little wee bit. So, I'm supposed to, with this internet, what do they call this, media stuff. I'm supposed to tell you a little bit about myself. I'm a firearms instructor. Amateur hobby farmer, outdoorsman. That's kind of what I do. And I write books, and I'm a webmaster. I've got several websites, and I've got several blogs on firearms and farming and outdoor kind of stuff. I'm an author of firearms books. So anyway, let's get started on this. What I'm doing right now is I'm just going to clean this, and I'm cleaning it the old-fashioned way with hot soap and water. This gun is filthy. The parts are absolutely coated in 100 years worth of gunk. I don't know how well you can see that, but they are absolutely filthy. Now they make all kinds of nice solvents and modern fancy cleaning stuff for firearms, but I do it the old-fashioned way. One reason is a lot of the modern solvents and things, they stink. And I live with someone who has a lot of severe allergies. So whenever I use chemicals in the house, there's a good chance that it's going to cause a reaction. And another benefit of that is the health, environmental benefits. A lot of those chemicals are bad for the environment. They're probably bad for our health when you get them on your skin and all that kind of stuff. So the old school way, like they did it 100 years ago, of hot soapy water is just fine for cleaning grease and gunk off of firearms. See if I can move this camera. That way, if anybody says anything, I might actually see it. It's the problem. When I'm looking at what I'm doing, I'm not seeing what people say on their screen. I don't know if there's any real way I can see the screen and what I'm doing. I'll just try to watch. Anyway, hot soapy water is the old school way of doing it. You still see black powder guys doing it today to clean their black powder guns. And it works just great. It works almost as good, or sometimes as good, as some of the fancy schmancy stuff they sell in the stores. Now, a lot of people think, you can't get your guns wet, it'll rust, they're made out of metal. That's not really true. They'll rust if you leave them wet. But if you use really hot water and you dry them thoroughly afterwards and oil them, you won't get any rust. So basically, you take the gun part and you take the hot soapy water and you just simply scrub the gunk off. It's not rocket science. You can already see that brush was white a second ago. So we have to clean every single little part. Now, and already this part is way cleaner than it was. No, yeah, you can see it's starting to shine already. Another nice thing too is, now if you buy proper gun cleaning stuff, it won't damage the bluing or the finish. But of course, if you use just some other kind of stuff that you have lying around, there's always the risk that you'll take the bluing or the finish right off the gun. I learned that the hard way when I was a kid. I decided to use some metal cleaner on a barrel of a shotgun, and I I stripped the bluing right off. So learned that lesson long time ago. So we use hot water for a couple reasons. Hot water cuts grease better, and the other reason is it evaporates quicker. It heats the part up, and the hot water will evaporate, which is what you want when you stop cleaning and want to dry the part off. Sometimes I do this in the kitchen sink, but I get in trouble for that, so down here in the gun room tonight. Oh, and I'm supposed to ask for hearts. Any of you folks watching, if you give me hearts, apparently that's going to boost my rankings in the search engines, or however all that stuff works. So, could use some hearts. So, already we've got this part pretty darn clean. Now I'm going to move on to the next part. I don't want to take the time to dry this right now. So what I will do is, after I think I got it clean to where I want it clean, I'll just submerge it in the water and leave it there. And again, it will not rust underwater. For a metal to rust underwater takes a long time. There's no oxygen, or very little oxygen underwater. So, you know, it'll take it a long time to rust. And it's only going to be in there, you know, an hour or so it won't rust. Barrel band. I wish I could figure out a way to move this camera a little bit. You don't want to look at my face. You probably want to see what I'm doing better. Oh, and then I just wipe my fingers on my pants. That's always good. So this little tripod is just kind of a bit too big. Maybe if I move it back. You can scrub the part too right underwater. Well, that stops it from spraying all over the place. If you're someplace where you don't want it to spray around. Down here it doesn't matter too much. I'm just in my gun room, so. Now sometimes the brush won't quite do it, because it's you know, it's a fairly soft brush. You don't want to use, again, any kind of brush that's going to damage the finish. So sometimes you want to, you know, revert back to your pick a little bit to loosen some of it up. We used the pick in some earlier video I did of this rifle a few days ago. There is some heavy duty dirt on there. There's no way to tell really when the last time this gun was used, but when you consider that even by World War I it was relegated to second line duties, and by World War II there was the odd instance of them being used in World War II, but not very darn many, and it was second line duties. So basically it's almost certain this gun hasn't been used in 70, 80, years. So there's 70, 80 years of dirt on there. It's probably put into storage, the end of World War I era, or even before, you don't know. Put into storage and left there for decades, and then, eventually sold off surplus, and whoever had it didn't do anything with it, just let it sit. There we go, that's the barrel band. That's pretty good and clean. And again, for those of you who just joined, this is the old school way of doing it, which is just hot, soapy water. I know it seems kind of strange to clean guns with hot water and soap, but it really does work quite wonderfully. And again, it will not rust your gun unless you leave the parts wet, as long as you dry them off afterwards. What I will do is, when this is all done, I'll take these parts up and I'll put them on a tray, a metal tray, and I'll put them in my oven at about 150 degrees for 20 minutes. The heat's not hot enough in there to do any damage to the finish or the metal, but it will just evaporate the last of that water, any water that happens to be hidden in a crack somewhere, and it'll be good to go. I'll put a little bit of oil on them and it'll be good as new. So now this part I'm going to leave. That's the, we'll call it the bolt. I'm not going to do that with the hot water right now. I want to do it last. It's a complicated part. I'll do the forward barrel band. This gun may be dirty, but I've inspected all the parts as I've been taking it apart, and it's in pretty good shape. The finish is well worn, but if it was a house, all you'd say it just needs a good paint job and a cleaning up, and be ready to move in. This gun's gonna be a good shooter. I may end up taking it apart sometime, but I really don't want to. Take it apart, it'll be tricky to get back together. Okay, well that looks pretty darn good. A bit in there. Yeah, looks nice. It's great to see all the proof marks come up. You got like the British, you know, that's the War Department, British military stamp. Not sure what some of the other ones mean. There's, I think those are from the proof house. The British love to stamp their stuff. Another tool that I like to use a lot are just simply toothpicks. When I'm cleaning these old guns, I like to use anything, you know, that won't actually damage the gun. You know, wooden toothpick. They don't last very long. They go dull, but they won't scratch up the gun. You're tempted to like take a metal screwdriver or something and start scraping around in there to get the gunk out, and then first thing you know you've scratched it. Some people would say, well, it's an internal part, you never see it. It doesn't really matter if you scratch a little bit of the finish off, but I don't know, I like to try to keep things as good a shape as I possibly can. Oh, I think I hear someone calling from upstairs. Yeah, there's my wife. Told her I was doing a scope. She's forgotten. So I better, I suppose I better sign off and go get these parts in the oven so they don't rust for a few minutes. So yeah, I'll sign off. Hope some of you enjoyed watching, learning a little bit about the Martini Henry and how to clean it. I am saving these scopes and I'll be putting them up on my YouTube channel. You can look for that under Indiana Magnum if you're interested in seeing the ones that I did before. Indiana Magnum again. Still working on that Martini Henry rifle that I've been working on for a few nights now. Now I'm up to, I finished cleaning all the little parts. If you watched any of the earlier videos, I stripped the action and I scrubbed up all the little parts. They're all sitting in oil now. Trigger mechanism. So that's all done. Now I'm working on the barrel and the receiver. The receiver is totally full of large clumps. Oh, got a battery notice. The receiver is just totally full of gunk and dirt and crud. but it won't take me long to clean that out. The barrel won't take long to clean the outside of it. If you notice, when you take the wood off, the bluing underneath, it shows you what this rifle would have looked like when it first came out of the factory. You know, nice dark bluing. But of course on the top that's exposed to the elements, there is no bluing at all left. I'm not going to re-blue it, I'm just going to leave it like that. All I'm going to do is take some very fine steel wool. I think it's 0000 steel wool, and clean the outside, top of the barrel, and the side of the action. I've already done this side, cleaned up pretty good. What happens with the steel wool and the oil is if you just rub very, very lightly and slowly, it will attack the rust, but it won't attack the bluing unless you rub too hard. So it's kind of a finesse thing. You just got to go over it slowly, gently, and nothing seems to happen at first. Then all of a sudden, the rust will start to go, and but it won't, like I say, it won't attack the bluing unless you push too hard. If you push hard, it'll take the bluing right off. But I found it works pretty good. It's probably not NRA museum, you know, technique, but it works when you're just messing with these old surplus rifles. So the first thing is I just want to finish cleaning out the inside of this action. I'll see if I can bring the camera over and show you. It's absolutely, I don't know if you'll be able to see it or not, but it's just totally full. This is actually kind of neat too. And again, I don't know if you can see it, but when you take the wooden stock off, you can see all the proof marks underneath where they proof marked it when it came out of the factory and went to be inspected, which is kind of neat. And each one of those proof marks tells you something, if you know a lot about these Martini Henry rifles. So anyway, I'm just going to keep scraping away on this, and anybody's got any questions or anything, feel free to ask. If I can avoid knocking the camera over, that'd be good. And I'll put her there. Yeah. So I just use these old dental picks. Well, they're not really real dental picks. They're plastic hobby store, gun store dental picks. They won't do any damage to the metal. Of course, real steel dental picks would make a heck of a mess. But they just loosen off the dirt, get it out of the cracks. For those of you who watched the video the other night that I was cleaning the parts, you might remember I cleaned them in hot soapy water, but I'm not going to do that with this. It would be nice to do that with this, but I don't want to take the buttstock off. Past experience has shown me that if you take the butt, it's nice and tight right now, and if you take it off, they're often really hard to get back on as tight as they were. So I'm just going to leave it on there. There's no real need to take it off. It'll make it a little bit harder to clean in here, but not that much. See if I can do something with this camera to show a little better what I'm doing. How professional is that for camera work, eh? And just scraping around down in there, getting Getting the crud out. Tons and tons and tons of dirt. Don't forget, if you like these videos, give me some hearts. I could always use hearts. If you got any questions, anybody wants to say anything, got any questions, just go ahead and ask. It's coming along pretty good. Then to clean out the holes where the pins and screws go through, I just run my barrel cleaning brush into them a little bit. And just cleans them right out. Clean as a whistle. How's that for crud? 100 years of dirt in there. I guess I should introduce myself. I'm Indiana Magnum. I'm a firearms instructor and cowboy action shooter and an author. I write books on firearms. And I've got a hobby farm here, and I broadcast little videos of some of my critters I have. People seem to find those entertaining. I have kind of an unconventional lifestyle, I suppose you'd say. But works for me. It's looking not bad down in there. I love working on these old firearms. It's bringing history back to life. Again, for the outside, a little bit of oil, and a very gentle polish with the very fine steel wool. Just spread the oil all around. You don't want to push too hard, you'll damage the bluing. As long as you don't push too hard and you let the oil sit, you know, let it sit for a few minutes. Primer on. Go right on the steel wool if you want. And I'm only, like I said earlier in the video, I'm only doing the top of the barrel because there's no bluing on there and there's rust, and this will deal with that. The bottom of the barrel, which is preserved underneath the wood stock, is no rust, and it's just perfect bluing. Looks like it came out of the factory under there, so there's no need to do anything down there. And this won't take all the rust off. I'm not worried about that. I'm just worried about getting the worst of it so it doesn't continue to rust. I'm not trying to make this firearm look like it did the day it came out of the factory. I'm simply cleaning it up, getting it ready to shoot, making it shootable, and stop it from deteriorating anymore. Oh, somebody gave me a heart. Thank you. Don't know who it was, but thanks a bunch. I don't always see everything people say, or I don't see the hearts they give me until I watch the playback later. I think it's something to do with my really bad internet connection out here in the country. I think it prioritizes, the signal going out rather than seems to be the signal coming in, because I don't see anything on the screen, and then later I find out there were a bunch of people watching and people were saying stuff and giving me hearts. So if there's anything going on and I'm not saying anything, it's not because I'm rude. It's just I don't see it. Suppose I should probably sign off. I'm told that these scope videos, you're only supposed to do like 10 or 15 minutes, so I guess it's probably been on that long. So maybe sign off. I'll keep working away at this, and then sign back on in a bit. And I am putting these, I'm saving these to my camera roll, and I do put them up on my YouTube channel. I've got a YouTube channel. Just search for Indiana Magnum and you should be able to find it. It's looking better already. And one last plug of my book, Ivor Johnson Handguns, 1871 to 1941. It's available on Amazon.com, so everyone who's interested in firearms should have a copy of this book. Anyway, see you everybody.